All right, so name and age.
Ette Broderson,
And
79 years old.
so, Diet, tell me how you got into logging.
I was raised in the logging industry.
Hmm. And what did your dad do or your grandfather do that got you started with logging?
When I was 13 years old, I babysit for my dad when he had his own logging outfit.
Okay.
I was supposed to be and watch what was going on and make sure that he never got hurt, or if he did, I could go out and get help.
Okay. Was he a cutter, or did he have a ground base operation, or was
He had a ground-based operation. He was a cutter, road builder.
Okay. And was he based out of Brinnon or Quilcene?
Based out of Brinnon.
Okay. Who did they mainly work for back then?
He worked for his, him and Bill Nelson worked together, had a logging outfit together.
Oh, really? So was Bill a Brinnon guy also, or did he?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he was.
And what did they use for equipment back then?
They had a TD-14,
Oh, wow.
1949 TD-14.
Gee, those even have winches on them back then?
Yes, they did.
Wow.
And this one had an angle blade, one of the first angle blades.
Okay.
But you turned the blade by hand.
Oh.
I mean, you swung it from pin to pin to change the angle of the blade.
Yeah, okay. And were they using an arch, a wheeled arch at all, or?
Yes.
Okay. Wow, too much. So did they pretty much log up and down these valleys for Forest Service then?
I want to say they did as much, some Forest Service, but most of it was private land. There was a lot of private land at that time.
Okay. And if you would take a wild guess, how many acres do you think they cleared a year?
How many acres they cleared a year? I wouldn't say it was over 80.
Okay. Do you remember when they got out of logging, when those guys called it quits?
Yeah, they called it quits. Part of the logging industry, they called it quits in 1956.
Okay. Did they sell off their equipment, or did it just get passed down to you?
Bill Nelson found another job falling timber,
Okay.
and the logging was a little slow at that time.
Okay.
So he moved off, and
Yeah, and did your dad stick around here working in logging then after they quit their own company?
yes, he started his own logging up. I mean, his own equipment and stuff.
I see. Okay. And so your dad carried on by himself for how many years do you think he did that?
10?
Oh yeah. Okay.
10 years.
Yeah, and when you got out in the woods after you got done with babysitting duties, when do you figure, or what was your first job out in the woods?
Setting chokers behind the cat.
Oh yeah. And they were probably pretty big bull chokers, huh?
No, 3/4.
Oh, okay.
5/8 and 3/4.
How old do you figure you were when you started doing that?
15.
Yeah. And did you?
I wasn't. He had a hired. Dad had another hired man that had done most of the hard pulling and stuff. I was there to help
Yeah, I gotcha.
and learn how to stay out of the way.
Yeah. Okay. So did you pretty much do that all through high school then?
No. When I got to high school, I worked on the log booms.
Oh, okay. Now, who was in charge of them? Was that a?
Oh, that was Buck Mountain. Quilcene had several loggers in there, but usually you were assigned to one outfit. It was either Pope and Talbot or Seebeck Lumber, Anacortes Veneer.
Wow. Okay.
And all those sales were Forest Service.
Okay. So did you pretty much stick with working the booms for Buck Mountain, or did you actually go to start working on their logging sides for them too?
I worked for the contractors that were rafting the logs. I was a
Yeah.
hired hand on.
Okay.
You learn how to stand on logs without falling in.
Oh, I bet that was a chore. How many times do you think you went upside down in the drink over learning that trade?
A few, but not all that many. The only time you did that is when you thought you knew more than you did.
Yeah.
Then you'd fall in and wake yourself up.
So, where were those booms at in Quill there?
There was one right at the head of the bay,
Oh yeah. Huh?
and there was one on the east side of the bay. It's still there. I mean, well, there's houses there now.
Are you talking kind of? It's down there, just the old log dump below Lindsay Hill.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then, did you pretty much work there as a part-time thing, or were you full-time for a while?
It was just after school and weekends.
Oh
When
yeah.
I was in the high school. The one I worked in on the Quill Bay was the Pope and Talbot one that was
Oh.
down by Linger Longer,
Yeah. Okay.
where there's kind of a big puddle now down there.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay. Do you remember who you worked with at that log dump below Lindsay Hill?
That was that was Buck Mountain.
Oh yeah. And was I think it was.
Bailey, I think, was
Oh, okay.
head of it. We worked for him. I mean, we worked for Buck Mountain, but he was the one that made sure we was doing it all right and whatnot. He was the main boss on the
Okay.
thing. Him and other one was Don Ward.
Oh, no kidding. Now, did Don work down there up until retirement age? You think?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that because he worked there after I'd left. I mean, yeah, he worked there for years. Boom and stuff was turned over to another. I can't think of their names.
Is it Portac or oh no, not
No,
Port.
these are private. But
I seem to remember. Oh, was it Halverson that worked that for a long time? There's so many names.
Halverson was a towboat.
Oh, okay.
They were the tugboat people that come in and got the logs.
Oh, okay. That's what it was then.
Yeah.
So after that job with the working down there on the booms for Buck Mountain, went to the wayside for you. Where'd you move on and work after that?
Back to Buck Mountain again.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That was my first job
Yeah.
to be in charge of anything.
Okay.
I worked for him with Kenny Harris to start with.
Okay. And what were you guys doing? Were you a side rod then?
Yeah, we was working in the high lead,
Wow. And
spar trees.
oh, geez. So where did you guys work at mainly when you were doing that, the high lead with Buck Mountain?
A little up the Little Quill River,
Oh, okay.
Big Quill, Dungeness,
And how
Gold
long?
Creek, all that Forest Service land that was there, clear to Lake Cushman.
Oh, wow. And how long were you a side rod for them?
Let's see, how did I become a side rod? Buck Mountain split up.
Oh, okay.
Kenny Harris had one side. Oh my goodness, I can't think of his other name. The other. Oh shoot, I should do that. I slipped my mind now. Anyway, there was another side there. And Buck Mountain kept one side.
Okay.
And if you got good enough to raise and stuff up, you got over to, let's see, yeah, that's how it worked.
Yeah, okay.
They would put you in charge of crummy and what, drive back and forth. But
Yeah.
that was, all that was prestige. You never got paid a nickel more for it.
No kidding.
But you were the boss.
Wow. I remember hearing a few stories here and there about raising those spar trees if you didn't have one already sitting there that was topped and you could rig it, how difficult it was to raise one of those wooden trees up or stand it up to yard with. It was pretty dangerous because it could swing and take out the crew and all that. So did you guys, on the jobs you were doing, were you guys topping trees and rigging the yarder, or were you standing up a pole?
Yeah, both. Standing up a pole was pretty, if you had your landing right and you put out 3 guy lines, is what you used to raise. And then you had to be sure you tied the butt of the pole down.
Oh yeah.
It had to be anchored solid. And then you run through the guy lines out to the stumps. And then one went from the stump to the tree back through a block.
Mm.
And that's the one that raised it.
Okay.
And as the tree went up, you either kept letting line out on the 2 that you got down there to keep it from swinging right or left.
Mm-hmm.
And the further it got up, the easier it raised.
Okay.
And once you got it 80, at probably an 80% grade, you had to, because you had the yarder had 2 drums on it also.
Mm-hmm.
And the mainline drum was the one that you was raising with. The haulback drum was, no, there's 3 drums. The haulback drum was holding on the stump.
Okay.
And the haywire drum was hooked to the one that was out
Mm-hmm.
to keep it from going over backwards.
Okay. Wow.
And as those went up till they got up to about 80%. And then you figured pretty much how much slack you needed in the one that was out in front, the haywire drum, the smallest wire,
Mm-hmm.
was holding, you would put a wrap around that stump and then hook it back to the haywire again and hold it in a piece of small cable with a wrap on a big stump. It's pretty much solid there.
Wow. And
And after you got, once that was done, you could release that stump and you'd raise it up till that line come tight. And if you was real good at it, it would be vertical.
wow. How long do you figure it'd take to raise one of those if everything went right?
All day, 8 hours.
Wow. And once you got that up in the air, how long would you guys yard off of that before you'd have to change settings or take it back down?
Usually about 3 months.
Oh, wow. That's something else. What were you guys yarding with? You remember what your yarder was?
It was a gasoline motor on it, and it had drums it was hooked to with. Chain drive, a lot of them were.
Wow. You kind of, I don't know, gas powered, so kind of maybe in the neighborhood of a Skagit 30 or something like that.
Probably the size of a BU-80.
Oh yeah, okay.
They was double drums. We didn't have triple drums at that time in
Okay.
our machine. Andy Watts, that was the other boss at Buck Mountain. His machine had all 3 drums.
Really? Okay.
And the reason, there's more of that, because he could, when the 3rd drum wasn't yarding logs, it was loading trucks.
Oh wow.
See, so his machine you could load and yard it. You didn't yard too off, get it too carried away with you yarding while you was loading the truck.
Yeah, imagine so. That sounds kind of treacherous. Yeah. Wow.
But the rest of us had to stop and hook the line to the drum line of the one and tie it off and then
Okay.
wrap it in that way.
Now, how long do you figure you and Kenny Harris worked together?
Probably 10 years, I
Okay.
suppose.
And then,
Between that and Buck Mountain, yeah, I imagine it was.
now how's
That's
Andy Watts related to the Watts family here in Brinnon?
I don't. Oh,
There's Gene Watts.
Gene, yeah, Gene was. I think he was his son, wasn't he?
Gosh, that's the thing is
I think he was his son.
okay. Now, um, did Andy Watts start that or get a hold of that JX construction?
He went to yeah. After Buck Mountain folded and he didn't make it. Couldn't. It wasn't doing that well. He went to work for JX
Okay,
as their road builder,
I see. Yeah.
and that's what he done afterwards. Now I never had much contact with him after he started. He was pretty successful at building road.
So Buck Mountain would have pulled the pin completely and sold everything off. Would that have been mid 70s, early 70s then?
Yeah, I would say no. It would have been probably early '70s.
Okay.
They built road for quite a while afterwards, but they quit. Buck Mountain themselves quit the logging industry.
Okay.
They took over the log boom. It was about the only thing they managed that way. They could manage the amount of timber that was coming in,
I see.
and
So-
that's how they paid off the company. These guys that bought the yarders and stuff, because that was held out of their what not their wages, their timber money that they were being paid.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
So they didn't have to have no down payment or anything, you know. It was kind of a fair deal for them.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, that does sound like a pretty good deal. So, with Buck Mountain, I'm gonna jump back here. When you were their side rod, you were working with Kenny Harris. Did you pretty much float around and do everything that needed to be done there, or did you stick as? Because I remember hearing along the road somewhere that most of what you did, you were a hook tender,
Correct.
and I was wondering, did you pretty much hook for them the whole time?
Well, yeah, that was my part. That was my job when we was on the job site, which
Okay.
you were called a side rod.
Yeah.
You had to know where all that equipment was, spar tree, with where the cables were, and watch out for your crew. It was quite. It kept you on your toes. That's
Yeah,
it.
there's a lot to
You
think
was
about.
responsible for that whole logging job, and it went all the way from the truck driver clear down. Because one time that truck driver told me to go ahead and leave. He had it under control, and that was on Gold Creek. And that's up the headwaters of the Little Quill, per near.
Okay.
And he never come down.
Oh no.
He never came, and he got snowed in up there.
Oh gee.
We had to go up and, yeah, it was quite a ordeal to get him.
Wow.
But, so I got my bottom.
Pretty well chewed out.
Yeah, so I never left anybody in the woods. I was always the last one to leave after that.
Wow. So did you break in tendon hook with Buck Mountain then?
Yeah, and I got most of my experience from Kenny Harris,
Okay.
because he was one of the better bunch of the loggers and stuff. And if you paid attention to him and stuff, he was pretty knowledgeable.
Wow. So how long
Well,
then?
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Several years.
Okay.
We had to know how to splice line.
Yeah. Yeah. And how long do you figure Kenny worked for Buck Mountain then before he ended up with one of the sides?
When they saw, I would say that was in the late '60s or something like that. Is
Okay.
when that happened. Because I worked for Kenny Harris first. My first job with Kenny Harris was up the Dosey Wallops River here.
Really?
across the 6 Mile Bridge,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and I burned up my whistle wire.
Oh no. How'd that happen?
Well, I had a fire,
Ooh.
and it was wintertime to keep warm by.
Mhm.
There's a whistle pump. Do you know what?
Oh yeah, I know what whistle punk is. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, you have to stand there where you can see both the landing and the rigging crew,
Yeah.
and then they had the tutor that so many beeps for everything.
Yeah.
Well, that gets for 8 hours standing on a stump gets to be a little walk back and forth on an old big log if you can get one.
Yeah. Wow.
But I did that, and that was Friday night.
Okay.
My fire was still gone, but when we come back to work, they couldn't start. The batteries were dead in the yarder
Oh no.
as it burnt the wire, and then the wire shorted out the batteries on them.
Oh no.
So I was unpopular there for.
Oh wow. Yeah, I bet. How long was your whistle wire?
Usually they was probably 800 feet to 1,000.
Yeah.
You had sections in it,
Okay.
250-foot sections in it. So
So when did they go to like talkie tutor bugs to where you could use them instead of whistle wires? At least the outfits you were on.
my dad went back into logging,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't remember when it came.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was a big deal when it came out, but I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you the month or anything that
Wow.
it was.
How big was that job up here over the 6 Mile Bridge that you worked on with Kenny?
I don't know how many million feet it was, 12 million feet or something like
That was a
that.
pretty good sized job there.
Yeah, it was a pretty good sized job. It was supposed to extend. They had it so it was supposed to go up the river a lot further than where it stopped now.
Wow. So you guys would have been working on that for quite a
About
while.
3 years, I think they worked up there.
Wow. And did you have the privilege of living on the Dosey then when you were doing that logging?
At that time, I was living at home still, and we lived down the Brinnon Church Road.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so you weren't too far off then.
No,
Yeah, that's all right. So now, when you finished up your tenure with Kenny Harris, where'd you move on to working after that?
well, back with my dad.
Okay.
That's where I went back to work for.
And were you guys doing catlogging then?
No,
or-
we was doing high lead logging. That's where I learned how to splice line,
Okay. And what did your day?
top trees.
Oh yeah, and you got a photo album too. So this is all these pictures here. Like, where are these all from? Like this one up in the corner. I see
my
it.
glasses on. Well, I don't know exactly what we got going on here. I know that's the.
I see a couple guys standing on the edge of the landing there.
That's snow.
Mm-hmm. This almost looks like up on Jupiter, looking down towards your plot of land just upriver from us. I can't quite tell though.
I forgot where that was at.
Now, is that you up in this
This
tree?
should have been up Tunnel Creek someplace,
Okay.
is where it's at. Okay. And I think the X, I don't know why it's X'd out like that. Now I forget what that photo's about.
Is that you topping that tree over on the right
Yes. Mm-hmm.
there? Wow, that's a pretty good sized stick.
It's 130 feet.
No kidding. Oh wow, there it goes.
Here it goes here.
Wow.
There, I'm up there. 8 hours I stayed up that tree.
No kidding. Oh my gosh.
Here's the guy lines. That's what I'm up there.
Yeah.
He-
Wow. Is that rigging up the Kenny Harris side?
no, this is my dad's side.
Okay. Yeah.
Getting more wires up there all the time.
Wow. Well, that looks like Walt Kelly's log
It
truck.
is. It is Walt Kelly's. We're subcontracting from Walt Kelly up Merhut.
Oh, wow.
And I think that one with the picture is the Duckabush River that was.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What year would you guess this is?
I would say 1962, 61, 62. This is
Wow.
Walter Beck and
Really?
the Yarder.
Now, Walter Beck's a Brinnon guy.
Mm-hmm. No, Walter Beck is a Quilcene guy. He lived
Quilcene, okay.
down on they had his folks and stuff. They were Walter, yeah, that was related to the Becks that was one of the Beck brothers.
Yeah, okay. And this is still all up Merhut here?
Yes, this is all up Merhut. We was up there for 6 years, I think it was.
No kidding. Wow. And what made your dad decide to get into high lead logging?
Probably it was the only work we had.
Yeah, okay.
This time was before they started logging much second growth.
Okay.
It was probably 10 years after this. We thought that Bolton was foolish for logging with a tractor and stuff,
Okay.
you know.
Wow.
But you can see how big the unit was. That's it snowed in up there, that part
Wow.
of it yet.
Holy smokes. And who would you have had cut the timber on this?
Joe Coates. Not Joe Coates. Joe Coates' dad.
Joe Coates' dad.
Joe Coates, yeah. Coates. Leland Coates.
Leland Coates. From this area?
Yeah, he lived down one of those houses that are down on the by Yelwick Store on the east side of the bay right there. And it's the house that's in the middle.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Leland Coates.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's who he was, the main cutter. He had some guys hired for him. Had a couple, but he did most of it. That's the yarder. It was mounted on a truck.
Wow.
And this was the log loader that Dad run.
Wow. What is that? A Scissor Boom American?
Northwest.
Okay.
And had what they called a dipper stick.
Oh, yeah. Now, did your dad purchase this equipment?
Yes, he did. He bought this from Hubby and Jarvis.
Hovey and Jarvis. Are they a Shelton outfit?
Yeah, the Hoodsport.
Okay. Wow. Now,
At that time, it was one of the better yarders that was around.
really?
But you can imagine running that all the time and no windows or anything out there where you're sitting working it.
Yeah. No heater, no nothing.
No.
That's pretty
This
primitive.
looks like one of our lunch fires.
That's a pretty good
Yeah,
size.
the lunch boxes there.
Wow.
This is Bergeson.
Bergeson.
He lived out on Coyle, way out at the end of Coyle.
Oh, okay, okay. Would that be Andy Bergeson's father then?
I lost track of him after that,
Yeah.
but he was quite a character.
Now that yellowed picture on the right, who's the crew there? You figure that'd be you, your dad, Bergeson, and
I couldn't. And my brother Ray is there.
oh, okay, yeah. How long you figure Ray worked with you and your dad out there?
I think he worked for a couple years
Okay.
before he went to college.
Oh yeah. Wow.
That's hiking back into the.
Wow, logging in the snow.
In the snow.
Gee whiz.
Digging out the snow out around the stuff in the yard or plowing the road. That's how I learned how to run cat
Okay.
and not
plowing.
not tear the road up. That was the main thing.
Yeah, it looks like you're not getting walling out the gravel on the way in. That's
Yeah.
good.
No, they didn't go for balling up the gravel. We had places where we plowed the snow and it was 30 feet deep.
Oh, yeah, I believe it up there.
Mm-hmm. And you had to build the road according to the cut bank up here
Oh,
because
okay.
you couldn't see any road
Oh my gosh.
if you just plowed down till you hit.
Wow, were you guys up past the saddle up Merhut on the backside, kind of above Cabin Creek, or were you further?
No, we weren't too. The road didn't go to Cabin Creek yet.
Okay.
We hadn't made it that far.
Now, back then, was Sig Anderson working anywhere near you guys? No, he had a little, I think, World War II mounted Skagit yarder you'd be rigging trees for. He was a lillywop logger.
Yeah, I know where he was from, but no, not really. I didn't.
Didn't have much to do with him.
No, I was busy just trying to do the best I could with what we.
Yeah. Wow, is that all up Merhut as well over there on the right?
Mm-hmm. That's still Merhut. We're still logging up there.
Gee.
So you can tell what year of pickup it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it was a Chevy six-cylinder, and Dad thought it was a real horsepower thing, but it wasn't.
Oh no.
All it done was burnt gas. I think they got 5 miles to 7 miles to the gallon with it is all. But it never broke down.
That looks like the Chevrolet my parents bought when they first moved out here. Wow.
Oh, somebody's doing something else.
Oh yeah. Taking a leak. There's Walt's truck again. Was Walt pretty much the only truck on that job, or did you have?
He had two, just alike.
Okay.
Charles Springer drove one, and Ackerman. It's
Is it,
one of Kenny's relation.
oh, there's Marvin Ackerman.
Yes, that's who it was, Marvin Ackerman. He drove the other one. And also, Robert Such drove one.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. After Ackerman went and did something else one winter and never came back. And then that's when
Wow.
Such started driving the truck,
Wow, that's amazing.
truck for him.
Gosh, I'm glad you had these photos. Is that part of Duckabush also? This looks like
No,
Alaska logging almost.
this one's one out at Lake Pleasant. This is what that photo. That's the lake there.
Oh, so that's a Rainier.
Yeah, this is part of.
Wow. Holy smokes. Gosh, I couldn't imagine coming into the sort yard with that mass.
Well, these all went to Lake Pleasant
Oh, okay.
in Forks there at Sappho,
Yeah.
is what those were for. That's what this is too.
Wow.
Trying to think of the guy's name now that. Oh, Dad was working for this. He had quit. He had retired from doing this. He'd give up trying to make money logging that way.
Oh, okay. That you and your
This
brother?
is Adelman's side.
Oh, okay.
Adelman was a hood sport logger.
Now, is that Roger?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. I worked with Roger for the first time up at Lake Cushman.
Wow. Is that you and Ray there in those pictures?
I couldn't tell you. We're doing up to something. Eating raw oysters is what he's doing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I haven't looked at these for so long that this is in Eastern Washington now. For some reason, we're in Eastern Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Oh shoot, I forget his name too. He lived out at Coyle too. I don't know whether there's any more logging pictures in here or not. These are pictures of logging over at, hunting over at Twist.
Oh, okay.
And this is when the Thule troopers and four-wheel for going up, I think was going back the trails before the Forest Service closed them down.
Oh, I see.
That's my dad on a
Okay.
tote goat. And
Wow.
we're up Mount Jupiter.
Oh, no kidding.
This is one of the, I think this is Tubal-Cain Mines. One of the sheds that was up there.
Wow, that's neat. Back when you can get on one of those bikes and go somewhere and not get in trouble for it.
Yeah, these Honda 90s were really something to get back on. These Thule troopers were the roughest riding thing you ever wanted to get on.
Yeah, they don't look like
This
they have a
is-
lot of give.
This is Walter Beck. And this is the lookout on top of Mount Jupiter.
Wow, I wonder how many years ago they got rid of that lookout station.
Quite a few. The guy at the lookout said they was the first ones to ever go all the way up to the lookout. But I'll tell you what, it would have been a lot easier just to stay down 500 feet.
Wow.
But Walter Beck and my dad decided, no, we got this far, we're going to take them clear up to the lookout.
Wow. Is that on Duckabush there?
I would imagine. This is up the Duckabush River.
Oh, look at those masher fish you guys are catching.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
That's Walter Beck and myself.
Oh, yeah. So I'm guessing that's probably Jupiter Lakes then?
Well, I was thinking it was Jupiter Lake or it's Mount Constance.
Oh, wow.
I think this is forget the name of it. Elk Lake. It's above Elk Lake on the Jefferson Creek.
Okay.
You go up. I don't know whether you can drive up there anymore or not. I think those are Jupiter Lakes.
Okay.
So is that one.
There's that trusty old Chevy.
Yeah.
So, Dia, you never worked for Adelman, did you?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I worked for Adelman in the wintertime. Dad was always worked for him and stuff, and we would get snowed out here. So in the winter, I'd go down and stay with Dad and work for Adelman.
When he was out in Forks?
And when he was at Forks.
Okay. So Adelman was from down south, but then moved out there and based his operation out of PA then after some time, right?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
His uncle brought his machinery up from, I want to say, Oregon. He had a big yarder. And for out at Forks, it was when we was logging that big timber and stuff was
Okay.
there.
Looks like we've come to the end of the backwoods pictures.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just. High school football and stuff.
Oh, yeah. So when you and your dad and Ray worked together, at what point did you? So did your dad hang it up, and then from there, you worked for Adelman some?
Yeah, we was working for Walt Kelly. Oh, let's see what was going on. Walt Kelly. And Dad wasn't making very much money or anything, so something, I don't know exactly what it was. Anyway, I had to find another job. Well, I was married and I had to find another job. And Marie's brother, Bobby Phillips,
Okay.
was a A1 logging truck that's famous there in Port Angeles.
Yeah.
And he got me on out there to work with Roger Adelman.
Okay. Gee, how long did you work for Roger for, you think?
3 years. I think it was
Yeah.
3 years.
Now, is
3 years. 4 or 5. I couldn't tell you. It was certainly.
so would Marie's dad be Uncle Bob Phillips?
That would be her uncle.
Okay.
Tom Phillips was the oldest. He was her dad.
Okay.
And he had his own log truck too.
Okay. And when you finished up working for Roger Adelman, because you guys pretty much worked exclusively on the west end.
with Roger Adelman.
Yeah. Okay. And when you finished up working with him, where'd you end up going to then?
Marie, the kids got old enough for school at that time. Claudia went to school at Forks for a couple of years, but then Mark started to school after that, and we was home here.
Okay.
And I got a job with Bolander Logging at Hoodsport.
Now, is that Bill?
Yes.
Okay. And now correct me if I'm wrong, did he have a steel spar yarder, or was he rigging trees?
No, when I went to work for him, I met him when I was working for Buck Mountain. That's how I got to know him, and he was rigging a wooden tree that they raised.
Oh, okay.
And the road washed out on it where we was working along the right of way for Buck Mountain.
Okay.
So we was coming out, and he was up the tree, and it was cold. I mean, yeah. And Bolander was up there in the top of that tree by himself rigging it, and he asked if my rigging gear was still in the climbing gear was still in the crummy.
Yeah.
And I said, no, it's not in the crummy. But I said, they probably go down and get some from Hubby and Jarvis and turn around and come back. Well, that took you going down from up there on, creek is it? Forget what creek it was now. Up there and come back. So that's what I did. I drove the crummy, got rid of the crew, and went back up there with the climbing gear. And went up, and by that time, it was 3 hours, I think, before I got back. He was still up there. So I went up there, and he was just starting, and he had one more guy line to go, and then he had to hang the blocks and stuff in it. And I got back. And I went up there and helped him. And then he come down, and then I finished. But he was about froze to death up there.
Oh, yeah, I believe it. And he was trying to do it all by himself?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then we went after that. Then in the wintertime it snowed out, and Pat Hanley had a logging truck, and he got a job down there at Hoodsport. And Bolander had a small cat, and we yarded. I fell the timber, and we yarded it. We raised a gym pole and loaded the truck with end hooks.
Wow.
That was, we didn't have much at that time. I rode with Pat, or with, who did I say the truck driver was? Hanley.
Yeah.
From Quillisene down there up Georgestead Creek to the logging job.
Wow.
And then on our last trip out, I got off at Springwater. Bill Bolander dropped me off at Springwater. And then I waited at Springwater until Pat Hanley got back from, I think he was hauling the logs into Olympia.
Wow.
So it was pretty late when he got back to the tavern. I had to control myself.
Yeah. And then catch a ride back home.
Yeah, we worked all winter.
Wow.
There.
Now, how long did Bill Bolander stay in the cable logging?
Quite a few years. I don't know how many years I stayed there, because after that winter, the next year, we're back to the high lead side, and I got to go start learning how to run the shovel.
Okay.
Because he had a good ground crew from the tribe, from the reservation.
Okay.
They were good loggers at that time. So they took care of. So my hook tending job, I could watch and see how they were doing it and everything, but they didn't need me out there.
Wow.
You should learn how. So he taught me, and you learn how to load logs.
Wow, that's cool. So how long did you end up running log loader for?
I think I stayed there for 5, 6 years.
Okay.
5 or 6 years, yeah.
And then how long, or what was it about that you end up having to quit with Bill and move on?
Uh, I wasn't couldn't support myself
Okay. Yeah.
on the because it's pretty tight. I mean, they didn't have a lot of extra money in there at that time.
I see.
Then that's when I went back. Well, I was working out at that's when I ended up with Adelman.
Oh, I see. Okay. So after you finished up, you jumped from Bolander to Adelman or back and forth. What was your next outfit that you worked for after that? Was that the Mankey?
Mankey. Well, I worked for the another brothers out there at Forks too. Sneller fellers, they were called.
Sneller fellers. I've never even heard anybody talk of them before.
I worked out there for them.
Okay.
Then when I came back after working with Bolander,
Is that when you got on with Mankeys then?
that's when that's what
Okay.
that's what happened. I got on with Mankeys.
So that would have
And
been.
I worked for 7 years for Mankeys.
Okay. And were you their hook the whole time?
I was their side rod for
Yeah.
the side that I had.
Now, did they have? I get mixed reports about this, but they had a little link belt yarder at some point and a Medill, and then they had I think, a Edco yarder or something along those lines. I can't really remember all the different.
What was it? It wasn't an Edco. It was a nice yarder.
Yeah, I can't remember now.
Washington, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Triple drum.
Is that the one that stood up in the middle of the bridge down at the Skoke?
No, that was they had several yarders over the years, but no, the one that's got in the bridge was a smaller one that was mounted on a lowboy,
Oh, okay.
and it spun 360 degrees.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it was independent of the, and you just packed, when you folded it all down, tubed it all in and collapsed it, it went on the low, it was already on the lowboy, so the
Oh.
truck just backed under it and
Where they
went.
went. Okay.
And you had to completely close it to be at 14 feet.
Wow.
I wasn't there. I was working for Mankeys, and I was at Enumclaw someplace. Yeah, I was at Enumclaw running the big side rod for the big tower.
Okay.
But they left that down at the side rod for that, and they didn't suck it all the way in. It was out a foot. And
Oh,
he had
no.
another deal to suck it in to get it down. So when he hit the bridge, it went up through the bridge, and the truck driver tried to pull it through.
Wow.
It didn't get through, but it stuck till it pulled the bridge down.
Wow.
Then they had to bring my loader from, that was a big Northwest, from Enumclaw down and walk out on that bridge and lift it up and pick it out of the river.
Wow. So did that, when that thing went down the river, were you all able to get it with one pick, or did you have to use more than one crane or one loader to get that?
No, I got it out with the one loader, but
Wow.
it didn't just come up easy like I thought I could just go out there on the bridge. But you're out there on the bridge and you already pulled it over.
Wow.
But it did come up. It didn't.
Wow. Were they able to salvage any part of that machine, or
Yeah, they was able to. It didn't hurt much on the machine.
Wow. So when you worked for Mankey, did they pretty much keep you kind of bouncing around, or did you stick around this area more? You said
Got a log
Enumclaw.
around here, but I had to work away from home,
Yeah. Okay.
and I did that. I think it was 5 years away from home, which weren't good.
Wow.
That working away from home, that many.
No, that's never good. So did they Did they do a lot over in,
Enumclaw?
yeah.
Yeah, they logged a lot. Cle Elum, that area.
Wow. And did you, what was your reasoning for wanting to move on from Mankeys when you did?
Because me and the main side rod for Mankey Lumber, Dale Hall, had a little difference of opinions.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And he told me to go home and stay home for a week,
Yeah.
cool off. That's when I decided it was. I'd been doing this for these other guys. All had never been fired. I was fired once. Irvin Kelly fired me.
Oh, wow.
And that was when I first started working. He come by and told me not to load that big, there was a big fir there that was on the landing.
Mm-hmm.
Told me, leave that alone, don't load it. And take everybody's time up while you're fooling with that.
Oh, okay.
Well, he was across the canyon over there and he looked around at the wrong time as I loaded it and put it on the truck.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He come clear across and he says, you can go down with the log.
Wow.
That was the, that was the end of that.
Wow. So how long did you work for Irvin for?
Probably 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years, I think, yeah.
Wow. Now, was Irvin a ground-based guy? Or like just have a cat? Or...
No, he had a tower side. He had one of the first. I want to say it was a steel tower.
Oh, wow.
One of the first steel towers around.
Wow, that's a pretty big deal then.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was. At that time, it was a big deal to get a big triple drum yarder up in the mountains that far.
Oh, yeah.
But his was the same way. You only worked 6 months of the year.
Right.
You got out in November and didn't go back until April.
Yeah. And did he pretty much stick around this area, mainly working up in the high country, or?
Yeah, until he couldn't do it anymore.
Now, I was told that just up the road from Duckabush, that Brinnon shop road, that old tin shack back, or that old shop back there, it kind of is just below Mount Jupiter Road. That was one of Irvin's mechanic shops.
No.
Okay.
His shop was up the road where it first road on your right.
Kind of back up behind Jack Trask's old place. Or not Trask, back up behind where Mary Phillips, was that her name?
Gary. No,
Gary's
Mary.
mom.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was
Kelly.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of up there back behind where Gary's mom lived.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's where their shop and stuff. I always thought it was a big shop too, but it was not
Okay.
much more than a horse barn. That's what it was, really.
Oh, okay.
Their dad.
Gosh, I didn't realize that that was pretty much home base for Irvin's operation, was up there in that field.
Yeah, that's where he.
Wow.
But that wasn't. It was just a barn.
Yeah.
It was. Everybody thought it was a deal, but it was.
Wasn't that big of a deal.
No, it never had anything in it to weld with or anything. It was just.
Just cover to work on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, if you were to take a stab at guessing how long Irvin ran his operation in this area, what would you say?
I'd say probably early '80s.
Okay. And at that point, when he folded up, was he still doing the tower logging then?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
As far as I know. He never did any ground-based logging that I know of.
Oh, wow. Okay. Didn't realize that. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, when you were, now I'm going to jump forward here from Irvin. When you were working for Mankeys, did they have you in charge of just one side? Like you had you guys had one yarder and the shovel and then a certain amount of guys, and that was your crew, or did they kind of bounce you around a little bit with different equipment and different crews? And
Depending on what the jobs were and what equipment you had to use, because Mankeys had lots of equipment.
yeah, okay.
They had lots of road builders. And main road builder was Barnes, was his last name. He was a great big guy. And he did most of the deal, but if they needed if the logging wasn't doing something with the side I was on or anything, well, they'd let me go and build road.
Yeah.
And I got to be pretty good at building road that way then.
Wow.
So I got to do, I've done everything, pretty near every job that they got.
Wow.
For Mankeys, it was good for Mankeys because I could go, and then I had my own pickup truck for Mankey lumber.
Wow.
So I didn't, I didn't drive it, didn't have anything much to do with the crew other than making sure they showed up
Okay.
and whatnot with the crew.
Did you have a kind of a rowdy bunch you had to keep an eye on all the time, or it wasn't too bad?
Not really, not really. I usually took pretty good care of my crew and made sure they was okay.
Yeah. So then,
Mike McCone was one of my better ones that worked there, and also was the best yarder engineer and stuff I had was, oh, I lost my train.
you're talking about Mike McCone, and then the best guy that was there that ran yarder was,
Lived out at Lake Leland.
gosh,
Wasn't Munn. Married one of the Munn's daughters.
can't put a finger on who that'd be.
He was a pretty good big guy.
So,
Anyway, with the two of them and stuff, I was pretty well. I kept track of them.
yeah, I didn't realize that Mike worked for Mankeys. How long did he work with you down there?
He worked with me until I quit.
Okay.
The Yankees.
And did he come with you when you bounced over to Bolton?
No, that was after
Quite a ways after.
Bolton, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
McCone went to work for me though when I was working for Buck Mountain.
Oh, wow. Okay. So after you finished up with Mankey, where did you jump to after that?
That was to my own outfit.
Oh,
I
okay.
scratched up enough money to log this place I'm on here.
Yeah.
And then I got some jobs and I built it from there.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Now would you say that was your time when you worked for Bolton and Yar? That was kind of in between Bolander and Mankey, somewhere in there?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And how long were you with Bolton, you think?
I worked for Pat for 2 years, 3 years. Probably
Okay.
3 years with Pat.
Okay. And
And they helped me out too. That's part of where I got started too, because I was able to use their cat to
oh
build
yeah.
some of the roads that I had around here.
Okay.
Pat treated me pretty good. He was pretty decent to me. Pat worked for me in the rigging too.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. He worked out at Clallam Bay with me.
For Roger?
For Buck Mountain.
Really? Wow. So,
And we shared a cabin out there, more or less out there for, I think we was out there for 3 winters,
wow.
like that, yeah.
And was he kind of in the same boat as you, where he worked for an outfit for a while, and when things kind of dried up a little bit, he'd move on in the wintertime and whatnot, or did he stick with somebody steady? Like for instance, working for Buck Mountain, did he stick with them pretty consistent, or did he jump around a bit?
I want to say, I forget, just Jan Jensen. That's who it was.
The yarder engineer?
Yeah, that was my buddy there. Yeah, Jan
Okay.
Jensen. No, after I. What did that? Oh, I know what happened. My rigging slinger and him got into a disagreement, and it got pretty bad.
Okay.
I told Jan that you can't do that. Just forget. Don't let it bother you. And we got to get through this job. And he wasn't. Jan wasn't going to do that. And then I fouled up and let Mike McCone go ahead. I says, well, then if Jan's going to sit here and pout, you go up on that yarder and go ahead and go to work.
Oh, okay.
And then that's all it took. So Jan went to work for another outfit over there at Enumclaw. And we split our ways for a while.
Okay.
But that wasn't I should have got rid of the rigging slinger instead of hurting the feelings of my.
Your guy Jan.
Yeah.
When you were, when you and Mike and Jan were over in Enumclaw for Mankeys.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, we stood up for each other all the time.
Yeah, I gotcha. Where did
But Jan went to work for some outfit driving truck.
Wow, because that name is familiar. I know I've heard it here pretty recent. Driving truck around here, you mean?
Yeah, he went to work driving truck and lowboy truck too, and did pretty good. I mean, he didn't have any. He was a good truck driver.
So then you moved on from Bolton's, and somewhere after Mankeys, you started your own operation, and you ran your own logging operation, and your son Mark worked with you at Bolton's, right?
Yes.
And when you were at Bolton's, were you a hooktender for them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Mark was he pulling rigging?
Yes, he was out there. Him
Okay.
and Jeff Valit
Oh, okay.
was my rigging crew out there.
And then
Kenny Ackerman was the yarder engineer for
okay.
Bolton at that time.
And then when you started your own operation, did Mark immediately jump over and start working with you, or did it take a little bit?
Well, I was working for Mankey
Oh, okay.
when
Oh, before you started your own logging operation,
I was working for Mankey, so
Okay. But Mark stayed on with John, or sorry, with
Bolton.
with Bolton.
Yeah, and then he jumped around a little bit.
Yeah, I see. So you pretty much ran your own logging operation from after that time with Mankey's right up until when did you officially retire? Or are you still in it?
No, I'm retired now.
Okay.
I putter around with my equipment, but I that was hard to do.
Yeah.
I think I was 70 when I decided that was enough.
Yeah.
Give it up. I mean, I had to stop.
So was it just you and Mark, or did you have a third or fourth person with you?
Well, yeah, I had another person for a while. I had for a while, but mostly it was just Mark and myself.
Yeah. And did you guys find private jobs, or were you?
Yeah, that was private property.
Yeah.
I got into really person, and we would buy the property. Had enough money to buy the property,
Yeah.
and then log it, clean it all up, and resell it.
Okay.
That was where my niche was, and the thing with a lot of people on coil still think that I'm all right guy.
Oh, good.
Out there, running around from clear to Hoodsport
Wow.
and stuff, where I worked and what
Yeah.
jobs we had. And then when we acquire that land and clean it all up and then have it, so Bainbridge Island was a prosperous place to work.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize you guys made it over there too.
Yeah, we did quite a bit of, bought quite a bit of property and resold it on Bainbridge Island.
Wow. Okay. So, gosh, I'm glad that.
Then my best job was working for Brown's, Discovery Bay.
Now, is that the same outfit that had brown pole?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
George Brown.
And were you up on the hill, kind of by, I guess, where their land, I'm guessing, meets up with Gunstones then, or?
Yes, at the time, that's part of what I logged, was on bordered Gunstones.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but that's where I started at and stuff until George got Alzheimer's or what it was,
Yeah.
dementia, and they,
So, did you pretty much only do ground-based logging once you got your own operation
yes.
going?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Was
could keep plenty busy with just the ground base without getting into
the headache?
yeah. I like doing the high lead logging. It was fun to figure out
Yeah.
where the landings and stuff and all that equipment was and where it's at. I never find where it's at anymore.
Now, out of all the different outfits you worked for, who would you say would have been the most fun to be with, I guess, with crew?
Bolander.
Yeah. And what was it about working for him that made it fun?
I was kind of, he let me learn how to load logs and take care of equipment. And in turn, I did some stuff for these kids and whatnot too. You know, we hiked into some trails and whatnot. So he treated me like an older son.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I'd still been working for him, you know.
Yeah. And out of these outfits, what do you think probably the most jippo of the crews would have been?
Roger Adelman, I would say, was the most successful of all of them. And if I had lived in Forks, I probably would have stayed there too. I wouldn't have went out on my own.
Yeah. And was his outfit pretty, like he had good equipment and a good crew? Was that what made it that good of a place to work for like that, you mean?
He was appreciated when you did your work.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, you know, he come make you feel like you really did something for him, you know.
Yeah, okay. Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah, I lived in a trailer and stuff out there.
Okay. What about, I'm mentally flipping through all these different companies that you worked for. What would have been like the most haywire outfit out of them all?
Most haywire outfit.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, there's some I don't even know the names of. Don Kroll.
Okay, yeah.
You know him. He had a yarder.
Yeah, okay.
And I was between jobs or something anyway. I run the yarder for him for.
I got you.
And yeah, I would say that was, but he was a hard worker and everything. But
Yeah.
and his equipment had to be, and he kept it wired together,
Yeah.
one way or another. We worked.
Where was that at that you were running yarder for him?
And let's see, where the heck was that at?
The only jobs I know of was he had that one in Discovery Bay, and then he had his yarder up on Cushman, that Medill. I don't know where else.
I think this was out on Coil.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I think it was out on Coils where it was at.
Hmm.
I know I had quite a time raising it. But once I got it up, And then I don't know how he got it back down, but they got it back down somehow.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Out of all the guys, I mean, you mentioned Mike McCone and Jan Jensen, but who else could you think of that was just a real great person to work around, real character? I mean, I've heard a lot of people talk about Mike McCone being a real character. Would he be at the top of your list, you think?
He would, yeah, him and
So the favorites you were thinking of from around this area was Richie.
Richie Bingham
Yep.
and Sean Loring.
Okay. What was it about those guys that made them so great to work with?
They worked hard. Never badmouthed me. We just got along good.
Yeah.
Just got along. It was, yeah.
Where'd you work with Richie at?
With Pat Yar.
Okay. And then
He was part of my Pat Yar's crew.
okay. And then what about Sean?
Sean that was Pat Yar too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was Sean working out in the rigging then, or he was
No, he was working out in the rigging.
Okay. What about Richie?
Richie was working out in the rigging.
Okay. Now, okay. Now this is going to be good. You've been around a bit. What do you think your most dangerous or scariest experience was out in the woods that you've had?
Most dangerous is climbing trees and topping them.
Yeah.
It's the most dangerous. And falling is second in line.
Yeah. Do you have an
And changing roads across canyons.
Oh yeah.
It was highly. You could pick that skyline and stuff up, and I've had it go clear over the top of my head, and I thought it was way in the clear and go back.
Oh wow. Yeah.
That was. And on that steep country, a stump or a big longbutt or something being knocked off the landing and comes down the mountain at you.
You got something in particular that you can think of that you had to clear out from getting taken out by a longbutt or something like that, or if it was just it happened all the time kind of a thing?
Something you watched out for.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Watched out for. Stumps rolling down the hill
Oh yeah.
was
Okay.
the worst because you don't know where they're going.
Yeah.
You can stop the rigging and everything, and here's coming this giant stump, and there's no way to stop it. It can go sideways, hit a stump, and then goes up in the air.
Wow.
Because you're working on a 50% slope.
Were most of those, when you had issues with stumps, were they left over from the road building or just something upended?
Some of them from the low roof building, but most of them were sawed off up at the landing.
Okay. Yeah.
And while they're yarding logs and stuff, they get knocked back over the edge. Instead of stopping up at the landing, they take off and
Okay.
on the hill.
Now,
And moving equipment
okay.
down those mountain roads, it'd be the fourth one. Because I had towed a lot of yarders and stuff with a cat
Mm-hmm.
down those where the trucks and stuff couldn't haul them. And going around those switchbacks.
Oh, right.
That was, and when you see one part of your pads out over the bank and rocks are rolling,
Whew, boy.
you wonder if you're going to make it or not. Especially when you're going around a big sweeping corner and you
Yeah.
look back there and you see the tires, only one dual on the road and the other two are hanging out over the edge.
Wow.
That was, and shovels.
Mm-hmm.
The sticker ones that I call that had solid booms on them, and you couldn't release the log after you picked it up. And you swing out over it with too heavy a load.
Oh, and it just tipped right over.
And it tips over, and then it hits a stump and stops. And there you are. You're in the shovel. The door goes closed on me. And there I sit. No way to get out. Shut the motor off. Is all I could do.
Wow.
And sit and wait till they figured out how to get me back out. I couldn't move the door.
Wow. Where did that
was up
happen?
Cabin Creek for Bolander.
Okay. Now, would you have been... Were you far enough up Cabin Creek that you would have been below, kind of below or in that same area where that Merhut Road extended to, you think? Or?
Oh, I have to take that back. I wasn't at Cabin Creek. Well, we was up at Lake Cushman.
Oh, okay.
Across over there.
Wow.
That's where we was done that. Bill Bolander was down talking to cat operator that was building the road. So I was running the shovel while he was gone.
Okay.
And they seen me, everybody in the rigging crew, everybody seen it go and what happened. But there I sat.
Wow.
On the berm of the road with my wheels in the air.
So how'd you get out of that predicament?
The cat driver was there talking to Bolander, so they brought that big TD-24 down and hooked onto the log. The rigging crew come in and they hooked onto the log. And as they pulled the log up, the shovel
Oh, yeah.
set back down.
Wow.
But I couldn't get out until after it sit
Yeah.
down pretty hard after it got over 50%.
Oh, I bet. You probably have to clean your drawers out after something like that.
Yeah.
Wow. Can you think of any particular job you'd been on over the years where you got up there and it was, I don't know, one of the better jobs you'd been on? Maybe it was timber, or the crew you had, or the equipment you were using. But is there anything stands out in your mind in all the jobs you've done over the years?
By
Oh, just anything. Could have been ground-based logging or tower logging, where it was just, it stood out in your mind
for
because
Buck Mountain, I think was one of the stuck out because we had a tower too. It was one of the first towers that was there, and we put out 110 loads in 1 week.
Wow. Yep.
I built the road down to this little flat on the weekend when the Forest Service wasn't paying attention. Got it all rigged up, and we put out 110 load in 1 week.
Wow. And that was, your
nice, big, giant, nice fir that was probably average 5 foot on the stump.
Wow.
Just thick.
Do you remember whereabouts that timber sale was?
It was Crescent Ridge is what they called the sale. You look down, we weren't out far enough, but the extended road would have went out so you could have looked down into Lake Crescent.
Oh, okay.
And from where we was, I want to say we could look out and see the straits.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would have been...
East Twin.
Oh, yeah.
The road we went up.
Yeah. Okay, I know where that's at. You remember how long you guys logged up there for?
6 months.
Okay.
6 months. We had 2 units to do.
And you were starting to talk about the yarder you guys used. Was it steel spar?
Yeah, it was steel. It was a D9 cap. They made it. They did a lot of them. This one outfit at that time in the late 70s, they had a lot of them that they had, and there's still some stuck out in the woods and forks and whatnot.
Oh, one of those.
They just abandoned.
Heister Porto spar.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I saw
We
where.
had it out at. That was one thing that was kind of neat. I was standing there with the rigging back off the side from the rigging crew because they were going to put another guy line up. And the yarder was still pulling, and I looked and the turn wasn't moving, so I stopped. I blowed the whistle and stopped. And all the stumps holding the tower up were coming up the hill.
Oh,
all
no.
three guy lines were just sliding up the hill.
Oh, no.
The turn wasn't moving.
Oh, no.
and it dinged up the edge of the tower a little bit, but I got it stopped in time to where we could re-rig and get more stumps to hold it.
Wow.
We yarded canoes.
Oh, really?
Believe it, yeah. Dug out canoes that were halfway or 3/4 done, and then the tribe, we'd leave them on the landing, and they would come up and get them after we went home for work.
Wow. Now
And
you
we had to have an Indian with us
uh-huh.
each morning. We had to stop and pick up an Indian with us to go up on the, and stay there and
Keep
watch
an-
us on the landing or come down and help us. For some of them that come out wanted to work just like everybody else, but some of
Wow.
them liked to just let their hangover.
Yep. They simmer down a little bit. Now you're saying you guys were. This is like old canoes that were out in the woods there that you were
that
bringing.
they started to build,
Uh-huh.
and we were right above Nia Bay.
Oh,
We
okay.
could- it was a point right on the point. You could see the ocean on one side and the straits on the other.
Wow. So you guys were bringing up what would have been considered a heritage, native heritage type thing, and so they would have taken them back and.
Yeah, they took them back down to their museum, and they check them all out. For some of them, they didn't want,
Wow.
but several of them they kept.
They were still in decent shape, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
kind of. Yeah, we had to handle them pretty carefully.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Yeah.
But they were tougher than you thought they were. You just didn't go up and kick them when they fall apart. They went. It's so wet out there in that country that.
They stayed in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Wow. So did you guys? Was it pretty frequent that you guys were blowing dynamite holes under logs you were setting chokers on? Then?
No.
Okay.
Very seldom. No, I never did that. You could always find some way around.
Having to do that, yeah.
That.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that was a farce. But we did have to. I did have to have dynamite on one place because we couldn't. Big cedar that we had at Clallam Bay, that was 12 or 14 foot through,
Whoa.
and we couldn't get the logs over it.
Oh yeah.
And we couldn't saw it because it was completely buried. It was down there. But a
Wow.
box of powder under each side, and it come out.
Yeah. Now, who was it that would handle the powder out there?
You know, the road builders,
Yeah. Okay.
have them come in, and they would bring some powder with them. But that would only happen once. Usually
You could find a way to get around having
yeah,
to do
you
that.
could find to get it.
Huh. Did you ever work around Alvin Ackerman when he was with Buck Mountain?
He was on the road building and dynamite and stuff. A little. I did some
Yeah.
some with it. I remember not really working with him, but there was the cat operator.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever have anything to do with Dick Borden when he was there?
Yeah, he was falling timber for Wally Peterson when I
Okay.
worked there.
Yeah. Okay. I couldn't
And
remember.
he filed my power saws when I first started logging for quite a while.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember what the timeline was there because I thought that Dick had worked for Buck Mountain for a while, cutting for them.
Yeah, he did. He contract cut
Oh,
for
yeah.
them too.
Okay.
That time.
Wow.
I seen him. I was with. Just told you his name a minute. The other one for Buck Mountain.
Oh, there's Ken Harris and
What was the other one? Lived up the Little Quill Road there, or up in Wildwood.
Andy
And yeah,
Wyatt. Yeah.
Wyatt, but his Andy
Or
wasn't
Watts. I
Wyatt.
mean.
Anyway, his son, Andy.
Yeah. Gosh. So.
But anyway, I was working with him. He was working with me,
Mhm.
and Dick Borden was cutting down below. And I told, and I says, this is not good. He's gonna fall that tree, and that, you see that long pole laying there beside him? That's gonna come up and hit him when
Oh,
that
no.
tree goes down. And sure enough, that tree went down and it hit that, and boy, his tin hat must have went up 100 feet, 200 feet in the air.
Holy smokes.
He rolled over and I thought it killed him.
Oh my gosh, this is Dick that happened to.
That happened, yeah.
Oh
And
wow.
there was another crew working at the bottom. We finally got their attention and we headed down there. By the time I got to him, he was dazed, but he was
Still moving around.
coming around. Oh,
Wow.
that was
And where do you think? Where was that job at? You think?
that job was out at Squim, someplace at
Mm.
Squim where he was logging. Forget exactly where that job was at.
Other than that, I'm curious, that incident with that heister tower pulling the guy line stumps. Have you been around when there's been a tower that's got pulled over or anything like that? Or they all stay in the ground and all that?
Oh, you mean like a tree? You mean a standing tree?
Yeah, pulled a spar over, like a
yeah.
steel spar
Broke
pulling
them in the middle.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
Was it pretty common then to have to do buckle guy lines on those, or did you guys not mess around with them too much?
You could tell that when you, like that 130 feet that are raised, you can tell. Then you have to go back up there and put guy lines in the middle to take some of
Okay.
that strain out.
Do they start dancing around pretty good if?
Not usually, no.
Oh, okay.
When they're tied down properly and everything, it takes a
Yeah.
lot to, unless the stump gives. When the stump comes out, and then either that or it pinches the stump off.
Mm-hmm. What was the worst stumps you guys had to deal with for trying to tie back a steel tube or a wood spar?
Stuff that's in marshy, wet
Oh yeah.
ground.
Did you guys ever use or have to use like hardwood stumps for anything? Or I mean, you'd probably high country, you didn't have to deal with it.
It doesn't matter. A good maple stump will hold anything too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Did you guys ever get too concerned about having a twist or any of that stuff back, or on most of those stumps, if you found a good hardwood stump that was decent, you'd just hook it up and go with it?
No, you have to tie them back sometimes.
Yeah.
With twisters, that's what you're talking about, the twister.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever do that? Tie
Yeah.
one of them up?
I've worked in the rigging some and had to do that. Yeah. I was just kind of curious because most of what you're talking about is pre my days in the rigging. So, yeah, I mean, you guys were pretty inventive back then. So,
Yeah, I've had up to 9 stumps tied together.
oh wow.
And then the tail holts for those big skylines too.
Mhm.
They have a lot of them tied back together. Jensen was running the yard, and that was out at Enumclaw. We raised the skyline and yarded for a while, and the skyline went a little slack.
Oh no. Pick it up some more.
And I picked it up some more, yarded some more, and it went a little slack again. Well, we're gonna pull it. It's gonna pull over. I don't think so. It's the tail holt that's giving. You're okay down there. It stopped. It finally stopped. But years later, Mankeys had to log that chunk of ground for the Forest Service.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that was one hell of a tangled up mess. I mean, it isn't gonna pull out. It's gonna hang up on something. All that stuff I got wrapped up back there. I never even went back to look at it.
Just left it all.
Left it there. Well, we broke the rigging slinger went and hooked too big a turn behind the tail tree.
Oh, okay.
You had the tail tree rigged with 2 guy lines out in front.
Mm-hmm.
Because the tail tree pulls over backwards for some reason. I didn't know why that pull over. So you got to have the guy lines out in front.
Mm-hmm.
But it broke it. It popped,
Wow.
come down.
Yeah, what a mess.
Yeah, and then you gotta undo it all, everything. In between your other work, you gotta get that.
With all that like high lead work that you'd done, what was the biggest mess you had to clean up with, I don't know, with a spar pole coming over, or a steel spar yarder tipping over, or something like that? There's something that stands out in your mind?
Probably Kenny Ackerman pulling over the one for Pat Yar.
Okay.
This 071. I was up on the stand with him, and I told him, don't pull. The friggin' crew wanted him to go ahead on it down there, and I said, don't. You got a loose stump back here. Don't do it. And I got off and stepped off the machine. The next thing I know, crash.
Oh, wow.
About that quick. Well, I
Wow.
can catch myself. Well, I thought it killed him, but it didn't.
Wow. Where was that at?
And that was up. I guess, what's that creek by the casino?
Oh, Jimmy Come Lately?
Jimmy Come Lately, that's where it was at.
Wow. So what?
Yeah, that was a mess. Get back up on it and everything.
What did it take to pick all that up?
Just getting everything straightened back up was a lot of handwork.
Yeah. Okay.
Make sure it was all, and everything come back up straight. So it didn't, because it just went over on its side. It never rolled over or
Yeah, I gotcha.
anything, but it was a mess.
Wow.
And then your lines on the drum are loose, and you got to pull that off, and it got a mess there too.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, out of all the jobs that you've done out in the woods, what do you think the best one out there to have is?
I like running shovel myself, loading trucks.
What do you think the biggest log was that you ever moved around? That one for Irvin?
No, that was for Buck Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest ones that ever moved around. There was several of them that were one log loads,
Whoa.
14 foot or
Whoa.
better on the stump.
Wow. And where was that at?
Clallam Bay, and also out at Nolan Creek.
Okay. Wow.
Whole river. I want to say the whole river was where the biggest ones were at, was up the whole river.
Okay.
We got hung up pulling it in
Mm-hmm.
with cascara, get
Really?
get tied up in it when you're yarding it in.
Uh-huh.
Then you have to go and switch ends with it, pull it.
Really?
And
Wow.
then it would hit a slough. Because the
Mm-hmm.
river and stuff was high, was close to the river.
Mm-hmm.
And it would float. And all the lines on the drum would get loose.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
How many times did you have to go and upend that log from going through the cascara?
I think it was 3 times on that one.
Oh, gee.
3 times. And that's the one where we had the Dynamite too, that one place where the cedar was.
Oh, okay.
The cedar was laid crossways. When we put the landing in, it was 1.25 of the unit went right over that cedar that was buried, and every
Oh,
time we
no.
dug out, it dug in deeper, deeper, and deeper.
Wow.
I couldn't saw it with a saw because it just dulled the saw immediately.
Oh, gee.
And I got the cat stuck there too out there. But I thought, oh hell, this is a good tail hold for the cat.
Uh-huh.
I don't have to worry about this. Well, it didn't go anywhere.
Oh, it went straight
But
down.
but then how would you get it out of there?
Okay.
That wasn't so good. I had a hell of a time. I had to double block it and everything. Don't remember exactly what all I had to do.
Wow.
It pulled the blade. You run the line down over the blade and back to the drum, so that
Uh-huh.
that blade was definitely down
Uh-huh.
in the whole cat stuck. It just didn't back out like I had planned.
Oh, no. Out of all the different landowners that you've had to log for, like I imagine Seaboard, and um,
We never seen those guys.
you never saw them. You just had to deal with the Forest Service person that was in charge of the sale, kind of a thing.
Forest Service, you had to be.
What was the? What do you think the worst part was about having to log for Forest Service? Or the best part, whichever.
Well, yeah, there was some of them that we had were pretty decent guys, and others I usually had done something that I shouldn't have done, like that one where we got the 100 loads.
Uh-huh.
I built a road down there on the weekend,
yeah.
so they weren't around, and they never told me that I could build that road.
Yeah. Okay.
I was
get you.
well informed that next time you
Yeah.
do something like that,
Yeah.
you're out of here.
Yeah. Okay. I got
And
you.
another one was the Forest Service guy come down to the landing and says, I want to make sure that these logs are painted yellow
Oh, yeah.
on both ends before that truck leaves the landing, and it's got a ticket on it.
Oh, I got you. Uh-huh.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
So I went to the chaser. And the guy that was running the loader. Who was running the loader? Dwayne Purviance. He was a real, that'd be one of my best buddies in the logging business too. He was running the loader. Okay. So I walked over the hill, getting time to change roads so the hooktender has to get back to his work. And I seen that goddamn green pickup come down the road. This place is shut down. Dwayne says, come up here. And sure enough, he just went down the road and around the corner, and the next truck that went out was painted, but no ticket on it.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And so that took a couple hours,
Uh-huh.
promising to be good.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Uh,
Out of all of them, what do you think I mean, it sounds like most of what you guys did was for Forest Service and maybe a little bit for DNR, huh? What do you figure the best big landowner was that you had to deal with out of all of them?
those guys that were the head of those places were pretty decent to. I don't know any of them that was hard to work with.
Mm-hmm.
I never got in to do anything that would really upset them.
Yeah, okay.
The Eagle lady was fun to work with. That on the Eagles when they were. That was time consuming. But that's usually always happened on private land, and it was before you had a rig and crew or anything out there. You had to deal
okay.
with the Eagles.
You got to go out and look around and see where their trees are supposed to be. Yeah, I gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. That was mostly in Discovery Bay.
Okay. Well,
And the other one was to make sure your fire equipment was correct. And usually we always had something wrong with our fire equipment.
I was going to ask if you ever got caught with your pants down with that fire equipment stuff. I hear a lot of stories about guys getting hassled pretty bad by Forest Service over that stuff. Or
Yeah. Well, I probably needed to be talked to about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they come out and warn you a couple of times. And
Okay.
then after about the third time, and then they'll, yeah. But
Yeah.
usually, it's up to side rod to make sure that stuff is there. Then when you get back to the office, you get all chewed up because you didn't have it all there. So you get 2 rows of it in one day.
Yeah. What was the worst outfit to work for in terms of not having all their gear available, like fire equipment, piss cans, and all that stuff?
Wally Peterson, maybe.
Yeah, you're the second person I've talked to. Actually, third person I've talked to that said that as well.
That might
Oh.
have been.
What was it like with
Buck Mountain was the same way, though. They weren't any different, you know.
They're-
They do the least they could. But
Oh yeah.
Wally kind of always stuck up. We have blamed him for it. Anyway.
What was the standout story with Wally or Buck Mountain as far as not having their stuff together when those guys come up and want to do inspection for fire equipment, as far as piss cans and water wagons and all that stuff? There's something that sticks out with not having it together.
Well, what we usually did, and it was common practice, even when I was logging for Wally, hooking for Wally, was send the lowest man on the crew up there and make him in charge of it. He was in charge of the equipment up there.
Yeah.
Of course, then that kind of PO'd the forester off too for
Yeah, okay.
the Forest Service. Didn't expect to come up with your youngest employee up here to take care of this
Oh, wow.
fire equipment.
Oh, isn't that something else? Well, out of all the years' experience you've had working in the woods, what kind of advice would you have to a young person that wants to get into it, working out in the rigging or cutting timber or heck, even going and starting their own outfit, getting equipment and doing their own sales?
If you doubt it, if it doesn't look right to you, don't do it. That's it.
All right.
If you have any doubts, don't do it.
That's pretty.
Sometimes then you got to go back and figure it out. And well, this is the best I know. This is how I'll do it. Stop first. Same way with falling timber. I quit falling timber. I worked with Larry McClanahan 2 years when the logging was slow. And then I cut for Mankey Lumber. I thought I was getting good at falling timber. And then one day I got up and I looked over the hill and then, oh, that's it. I'm not doing it no more. I've done it enough.
No kidding.
Yeah. I knew I was going to get it sooner or later. I did get hurt once.
Okay.
Once falling timber.
Wow.
And after, when you have to get out of the pickup and stand beside the pickup and stretch and stuff before you can take your saw and go over the hill,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to say, no, I'm not. And that was with cutting with Misty Bloomfield at that time.
Really? Now,
You had to be a pretty good cutter to cut with him or you didn't stick around very long.
who did Misty work for then? Was he strictly?
Yeah, he was contract cutter. He cut for everybody. The price was right or whatever he bid on the jobs.
Where was he from?
Well, Bloomfields. So I don't know exactly their parents and stuff, and Junior Bloomfield lived in Brinnon here.
Okay.
But Misty had his place down at that little creek down there. I forget where
Yeah.
in
Okay.
Hoodsport anyway. That
Yeah.
Gold Creek, is that what it is called?
Yeah, I
Is
don't
that
know.
what the creek is that goes right through? Anyway, his place was up there, and then he had another one in another place.
Was he how was he related to Chuck Bloomfield from Quilcene?
Junior Bloomfield's brother.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Where was it? I mean, notably that Misty would most often work for, or where would he often work? Was he doing jobs for pretty much anybody that had a decent sale?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Well,
Yeah, I don't know of anything that he ever turned down. But he was good to work for because he'd come up and tell you, what was you about to do? I was about to cut this off here. He says, on side hill, you do not cut that off. Well, that's where the mesh. He says, your life's fear behind it. You want that log to split. When you cut it off, you want it to go away from you. And if you do cut it on one side of the stump, one will go one way and one will go the other way. Where are you going to go?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Cut, and then the other thing was cut the heaviest weight off first. Sometimes that's the butt, sometimes it's the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because back then, well, even some places now, cutting that heavy timber, that big stuff, is a lot different than a normal thinning or, yeah, just your normal average medium-sized second growth. So you got to know what you're doing. Do you remember how long Misty cut timber for when he kind of got out of it?
No, I don't. No.
Do you remember how old?
I know two of his sons got killed doing it.
Okay.
At least one of them. I think it was two of them that got, or one got killed and one got hurt bad.
How old was he when you were working with him, you think?
I would say he was in his early 40s,
Okay.
late 30s. Yeah,
So when you started your own logging business, how old were you?
35,
Okay. Yeah.
36. No, 36. Yeah. Yeah, I think I was 36.
Hmm.
What Buck Mountain had was a big truck, dualies, and a front and rear power to the front drive and back dual wheels.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a heel boom. And it had a set of tongs on it. 28 inch, we had 28 inch and 48 inch tongs, depending on how big the trees were. And you'd take those tongs and run down over the hill, over the brush and everything, well, keep the drum spinning and then drop the tongs on the log. And then the operator, Bud Taylor, would immediately as they fell over the log, he'd pick it up and snap, he had it.
Okay.
And then you run and got out of the way and they took it on up and put it on the truck. And they swing back over and do that again. That's on the downhill side.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now while the truck's gone, you work on the uphill side.
Oh, gee.
And you have to pull the tongs. There's no,
Oh, wow.
no, so you pull them up. What you try to do is go under logs and stuff. So when you pulled it up there and hooked it up to the log, the operator and the shovel, either Bud Taylor or Dwayne Provias, would pick up on it till the logs started coming down the hill.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So,
They was facing the logs as they was pulling on.
oh, gee, the human haulback. So
Yeah.
is that the same machine I heard about that Ernie Dahman sold to Sam Bowling? It would have been probably mid-late 70s, I suppose.
Well, could have been. I don't know.
Because I heard about a machine that Sean Loring had worked for Sam, and he was doing that. He was running the tongs down and hooking them up, and they were doing right-of-way logging or something along those lines. And I think Sam bought a cedar sail, and they called Sean the human haulback because he had run that set of tongs down there. So
But that was fine and dandy on the deals, but we had some that was creek crossings and stuff like that where we had to go, and it wasn't. So we'd take turns.
mhm.
You had the one up on the truck, unhook after it on the truck and swing it over, and then when the next truck come back in, Dwayne and I would change off on who did it.
Wow.
And then Bud Taylor would let us do that on our own. He was back there. He'd take a break and we'd keep
Yeah.
going. Dwayne got better and better and better at it as the time went on.
So where was Bud from?
I think the Taylors and Stump for Snow Creek.
Okay. And Dwayne Proviance?
Dwayne, Discovery Bay.
Okay. Are these guys still around anymore?
Dwayne's still around.
So are they around the same age as you then, or a little younger?
Mm, Dwayne and I are the same age.
Okay.
Bud Taylor was probably 15, 20 years older than we were.
Yeah.
He took his own life. His wife died from cancer or something.
Oh, that's
That
sad
was
to
just
hear.
a few years back. I was logging for him at the time.
Oh, that's sad to hear. Yeah.
White fur, 40 foot long and probably 24, 30 inches in diameter on top of the load.
Oh, yeah.
And it started going. I let go of it with the grapples and it was slippery bark
Mm-hmm.
and was a little bit of a grade.
Oh,
And
wow.
here goes the log. And I can't get a hold of it. The truck driver drives ahead, trying to outrun it as it's going over his windshield
Oh, no.
and stopped. And it was so, then they took the tower to the log and pulled it back up on the truck and it come
Wow.
right back up the deal and sat down on the load again.
Wow, and that was for Bolander, you said?
Yeah, that was for Bolander.
Where were you guys at when that happened?
Tunnel Creek.
Yeah, okay.
Tunnel Creek.
Wow. I might have asked this earlier, but how long did Bolander go? Or do you remember, like, maybe what year that he got out of logging?
No, I don't. When they rigged the tower up, they put one guy line on a stump above, right above the cut bank on the road, and the other main stump was notched, fell with very little stump, and they notched in. And then the Hooktender at that time, instead of moving the yarder, he went around, which he could do, back pretty near behind the yarder and grabbed a turn of logs.
Oh, wow. Uh-huh.
And then when he went ahead on it, that first stump that was up on the cut bank come off.
Oh, no.
And the one straight behind it popped the top of the stump off.
Oh, no.
And here come the tower. Well, my shovel's right there too. And the log truck's in the landing. I'm loading the truck. The guy lines went down around the truck, knocked one mirror off.
Oh, gee.
I run ahead with my shovel, so I run right up on the near the stinger of the truck, trying to get out of the way of the tower coming over, down on me.
Wow.
What, Jensen? He was okay. He come out of the off the yarder laughing that he didn't get hurt or anything. But the guy line hit the tower. Yeah, the guy line hit the tower. But it stopped. I was able to get the cat. That was the other thing. I had to take the cat and run up on the bank with the cat through the landing over the logs and everything and get up there and get a hold of one of the guy lines and tighten it up with the cat and hold it there till we could get everything, the truck undone.
Wow. And where was that at?
That was in Enumclaw.
Okay. Wow. How long do you think it took you guys to get it all sorted out? And
All the rest of the day to get the log truck out and everything without hurting anything other than the mirror on the truck. That's all that got hurt on the truck,
Wow.
was the mirror.
Yeah, too much. Well, I've taken up enough of your time. I think I should let you get going, but I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me, Diet.
Well, there might be something in there, something too I'll think about or something.
Well, the good thing about all of this is there's always room for re-interviews for more information. So, no, that's all good. Well, thank you very much, and we'll catch up with you later then.
All righty, well, thanks.